Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Ellen and I'm going to be your host for the next few presentations. And the upcoming next presentation will be Nils Scheers from Thynk CRM. And he will talk about Agile hospitality leveraging a growth platform for digital sales. We will let you ask your questions during the whole presentation. So if you want to ask something, just feel free, raise your hands and I will come back to you. And then enjoy your stage. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So hi, I'm Nils. I'm the CEO of Thynk. I'm also one of the co-founders. So when people think about agile hospitality, they mostly think about how management can be more efficient in their reporting. Especially if you talk about CRM, people think about management in their headquarters, managing 20 hotels and looking at the data from a global level. But actually that's not true. Data starts on the bottom, starts where the service is consumed. One of the greatest examples that we had in our companies is function sheets. So if you talk about function sheet BEOs, this is something where today hotels are wasting hours of hotel staff and spending a lot of money, up to, I would say, 10 hours a week, where somebody manually is changing and adapting function sheets to make sure that it matches what the client has requested and that the operational team knows what they have to provide as a service. Why do that all over again? If you have put it in one smart system from in the beginning, you can make that system run out a function sheet which is correct, which matches what the client has requested. And if then the system allows you to add some, let's say, internal notes which are only seen by the operational staff, what else do you need? Nothing. You don't need anything else. You just need a button that says print function sheet on a daily or on a weekly or just for one quote, and you're good to go. And we have shown that now in many of our clients that you do not need to spend 5 or 10 or even 20, let's say, manual hours on adapting the function sheet every single version. And versions is another issue. We were in a hotel where we literally seen the kitchen working on version 12, where the barman was already on version 21. First of all, question is, how can you end up with 21 versions? And second of all, why doesn't everybody is aware of the latest version? And why isn't everybody using the same version? Well, the reason is they print it out manually, so they use a lot of energy printing it out. And then they manually distribute it in the hotel. And if then the person who has to provide the service is not there when version 21 was distributed, you get a miscommunication internally. So to avoid all that, what we do actually is we say, look, just install 2 iPads in the entire hotel, one for the bar, for the restaurant, and one for the kitchen. You make an URL run which has the latest version of the function sheet. And on the side, you have an action log that sees who made changes when for like the last 48 hours. So if the kitchen yesterday evening came in and he checked the function sheet, he just has to check the change log and see who has changed what in the meantime. And there you go. You don't need version 21. So that's one of the examples why a CRM, which is powerful enough to manage your operations, not only the management, could really help you digitalize your way of working and make your hotel experience a lot more smooth. And you could probably also make people do more custom-centric tasks instead of making them waste time in the back office preparing for documents. Another example is sales. So CRM is definitely the home for salespeople to encode their activities. But do they have to do it manually? No, they don't have to do it manually. What we do is we leverage Salesforce. Salesforce has a connector for Outlook and Gmail. Most of the companies we work with Outlook or Gmail. So every email from somebody who uses the system can be manually or automatically logged. Manually, I mean you go to your inbox and you say, click, I want to log this email. Automatic means that every email from a contact that is in your system, in your CRM, is automatically logged to the system. So if you're sick one day, somebody else can just go to that contact and see all the communication that had happened with that person. And you don't need to panic and run around the hotel asking, what has happened? When is this event coming up? What was the last change? You will know it. You have access to that last email. The other great example, which I've seen in my own career when I was working in hotels, is losing business. Mostly, the general manager comes in the morning. He would check at his pickup report, where he checks revenue versus yesterday. And if he sees a negative number, he starts panicking mostly. The first thing he does is picks up the phone, he calls the head of meetings and events, and he would ask, why did we lose 20,000 euros? And every time I saw that, I was like, but why do you need to waste time of that meetings and events coordinator when that person has already put or should have put the information in the system why yesterday we lost 20,000 euros? So instead of that, what we do actually is compared to what you used to have in your PMS. If you take, for example, Opera, every report is static. Static, what does that mean? Is you print out a report and you see a number. But if you want to find out where that number is coming from, you need to ask, or you need to be very good in the system to know where the data is coming from. With our system and every smart CRM on the market, they should be able to use only the dynamic reporting. Dynamic reporting, what does that mean? It means that you click on the report, you see the number, and you click, for example, on the minus 20,000 euros of the revenue you lost yesterday, and he could see the business that was shifted yesterday from a positive to a negative. And he can click on that number, he can see which quote you're talking about, and he can even see the reason why it was lost, and again, all the communication with sales and operations. So the GM doesn't need to pick up his phone, he can see every data directly in the system. And that's how it should work. A general manager of a hotel or even an owner of a property should not need to call operational people to stop them doing what they're doing, which is probably more important than answering questions of the general manager, and just see the data in the system. The only reason why a GM should call operational staff is in a weekly meeting where they discuss the lost business and what you're going to do about it, not to prepare for the meeting for, again, 2-3 hours, and then during the meeting, figure out that the data is not correct. This is what is happening all the time, and that we see with many of our clients where Excel is still the main point of communication and main point of reporting. And I mean, I'm nothing against Excel, but you shouldn't export data from different PMS systems and then import in Excel file to then manually make formulas, which are mostly wrong in hotels, because we're not Excel experts, to then find out how much business you lost, you gained, or what is coming up in the following months. The other thing is budget versus forecast versus on the books. This is a report which I have seen in many, many different formats in different hotels, going from the United Emirates to Singapore to Paris. The essence of the report is everywhere the same, but the way of using it is every time different. The reason for that is that hotels, they call it a budget. A budget is normally the amount of money you can spend to get to a certain sales point or whatever. But for hotels, a budget is the amount of money they should have achieved at the end of the month. And the budget is defined annually in the beginning of the year. Then the forecast is actually the number, is the budget, but that evolved during the year because conditions changed, especially after COVID. Budget went divided by 9, I would say. So having that report accurate without spending manual time, I've not seen it in many hotels. And that is a big pain because, again, staff cost is very expensive, especially now post-COVID. So please analyze what hotels are spending or what your staff is spending time with and look at how can we optimize this. Every administrative task, I think, is not needed. There's always tasks you need to manually do, but you can really limit them. One of the tasks that we didn't figure out yet to automate is sales calls. If you call somebody, you manually have to go in a system and put in what has been said. we have optimized a little bit by using Siri and Google Assistant, where you can actually speak to your phone and say what has been said during the call in a brief, and then the system records it and puts it in text, and then you have it in an activity. But that's for me, if you look at a sales activities, that's pretty much the only task that you need to manually do. Everything else, emails, tasks, follow-ups, as I said, the reports, they're all automized. You can perfectly say, every account which has more than 20K of annual revenue, I want to follow up every 2 months. So you make the system every 2 months, make a follow-up call saying, if it's above 20K, you give me every 2 months an automatic task saying follow up with that person. If it's, let's say, a top account, I want every 2 weeks to call him, but then you make an automatic task saying every 2 weeks you call him. So all that is automizable, and today hotels really have to look into that digital area to be productive and to gain money. My parents were in different businesses, and their margin was sometimes 40 to 50%. If I tell that to hotels, they were like, we're at 5, maybe 6. So hospitality is not a business where the margins is very big. But how can you, I mean, what is the biggest cost for a hotel? Staff. So if you optimize your staff, you optimize your margin, means more profit, more margin to invest in other stuff. The speaker just before me talked about being ecological and investing in campaigns to make your hotel carbon zero, or investing in planting trees to optimize carbon. So all that, if you do not have enough margin, you don't have time, or you do not have money to invest in that. So I would say start looking at the core of your business by optimizing your staff and what are they spending their time, which is your money on, and then look at it. And having a PMS with an open API is your first point. If you don't have a PMS that is easy to connect with, it stops there. Because if you're a PMS, where every reception person, and even if you use then sales and catering into that system as well, is putting in their data, you cannot get it out in an easy way or without spending a lot of money, it stops there. So I would say first look at your PMS and your POS, so the point of sale in the operational team, to make sure that they are connectable. And once that is done, if you have 20 hotels, you can connect all those 20 hotels, doesn't matter which PMS they use, which POS they use, you connect them to a powerful CRM, and then all the data is in one system. Gives you a lot of advantages. First of all, security. You know that the data is in one system, which is your parent system. So if somebody sends you an email saying, I was in your hotel, but I don't want you to keep your data, you delete it from your CRM, and you make sure that the API makes sure that the data is deleted or erased in all those other systems, which is a big thing today. Another thing which I love to see when we start projects in hotels is double profiles. Great example of that is American Express. American Express has a lot of offices, but the amount of profiles they have doesn't match the amount of offices. We had a client in the UK, and they had 400,000 profiles when we made the first export. And we were like, do you really have, or do you really think you have 400,000 clients? No, they don't have 400,000 clients. I looked at private profiles. There were like 120,000 private profiles. I said, like, that are not a company, that's a private person. Yes. So what we do actually is we pick up all those PMS accounts, between brackets. We define together with the client matching rules, which then makes an account in our system. So we would say if the name contains American Express or Amex, and the IATA code of the agent is the same as the one you already have, you put them together in one account, which gives the sales team then one view on that account, which combines the production of all those PMS accounts. And in the meantime, we have seen American Expresses with 50 to 100 different accounts, PMS accounts linked to one account. So that means that they're in different hotels they operate. Somebody in the reception or somebody in the operation team has created a 99th profile of a profile that already exists. then I ask myself, do you check before you create a new profile, or is just your automatism to make a new profile? And it's mostly the second one, because what we do then is we talk to the reception and we ask, what happens if you got a new request? And then their honest answer is, we just make a new one because finding the right one takes too much time and we don't have time. Okay, makes sense, but means that management has to review the operations. Another thing is asking the right information from the reception. The reception, and in the meantime, since the last month, I've traveled quite a lot since we can travel again. Sometimes I end up at a reception where they don't ask any question at all. And sometimes I end up with a question at the reception where they ask me 20,000 questions. And I'm like, couldn't you do that before I arrived, or couldn't you pick that information up before? Like yesterday I arrived here in Köln, beautiful city, but you have to manually fill in a form saying that you're traveling for business to not pay the city tax, which I find a little bit strange, but it's good. But why can you not digitalize it? Why you cannot link it with an open API with your PMS and make sure that client checks in, form is pre-filled, just need to print it or show it to him, he has to sign it digitally and you're good to go. The technology is there. Hotels are just scared to invest in technology because they have spent so much money in the past, which was lost. And the amount of clients we see that spent 5-digit numbers on projects in the past, and they have all failed and they had to put it all in the bin, it's enormous. And it's a pity. It's really a pity. The reason is that there's so many, especially in the past, companies who say, we can do it. It's fine. Yes, you want to link the PMS? No problem. We can do it. First of all, most of those companies, I mean, we spoke to some of them, like to ask them what they had done. Actually, they do not understand hospitality. And that's the biggest mistake of all. I love Salesforce because we have built our entire company on them. But to adapt Salesforce to hospitality takes money and takes time. So do not try to do it yourself. And it's the same with Microsoft Dynamics or any large CRM that is out there. You need always a project manager, or you need money to adapt the system to hospitality, because however you turn it, hospitality is different. We are not a bank, we're not a real estate company, we are a different way of doing business. Sometimes there are principles like they use where clients are like, are you serious? Is this a real business? I'm like, yeah, it's a real business and you need to adapt the system to make it work like that. There were many PMSs, like smaller PMSs, who were not adapted to their use. They didn't know how to handle it. If you wanted to book a room for a pilot who arrived in the hotel because they had to land in an unforeseen destination and he wanted to check in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and check out at 8 o'clock in the evening, that was just not possible. And they were saying, no, you have to pay 2 nights. And the pilot was like, okay, he doesn't care anyway. But it's a principle that every system should be adapted to it. And there are many new PMSs out there. I mean, several names, Muse, Apaleo, Stay in Touch. They're all adapted to what we need today. The large players, I mean, if you go to the Middle East, everybody's using Oracle. There's nothing. There's no, I mean, there is, I think it's called Clock PMS, which is a local PMS system there, which smaller hotels use, but all the rest is using Oracle. Oracle is good in what they do 20 years ago. Today, hotels, they need something fresh. There is Opera Cloud. Opera Cloud is good. They finally got an open API. Yes. Do you have to pay for it? The hotels say no, but we as an integrator, we have to pay for it. So what they did is actually they moved the cost from the hotel, which if we have Opera, if you have an Opera V8, for example, you tell the hotel, yeah, you need an Oxy, which is their connection. And then Opera says, okay, that's good. We will install the Oxy. That's 25K. You want a maintenance? Okay, that's 10K. And the hotel's like, but no, that was not foreseen. And I'm like, I'm not a PMS. I'm a supplier. And so hotels, they don't like connecting systems to Oracle or to Opera because it costs them a lot more money than they expected to. And that's why, even with Opera Cloud, I mean, great move, but then we have to pay it, and then we have to charge our client, and then the client says, why are you so expensive? And then our answer is like, if you would have taken Muse, for example, would have paid 25K less. But it's an endless discussion. It's a large and long discussion. It all depends on your business. Every business is different. Some hotels will not be able to operate with an Apaleo or with a Muse because their operations is too complex, or they used to make it so complex. We switched a hotel in Brussels of 400, more than 400 rooms. What they did, and I found it super curious, is they said, we start from zero. No import, no data, just start from scratch. And I was like, okay, hotel group, 400 rooms. I think they have 25 meeting spaces. The largest agents that you know, they work with that hotel. It's a key hotel in Brussels and even in Europe. And I was like, but if they can do it, why cannot any other hotel do it? And actually everybody can. It's just that you need balls, first of all. And second of all, you need to inform your staff on what you want to do and get their feedback. And that is the lesson I want to give, or the word I want to spread today, is that involve your staff. If your staff is not involved with the project, it will fail every single time. What we do, and we didn't do it from day one, we started doing it like the last 2 years, is when we start a project, we say we need 2 project managers. One senior and one on the floor. It has to be somebody on the floor who knows what is going on and who knows where they do not respect the rules or where they just try to slip through the rules. For what? To learn, to observe what the hotel is exactly doing compared to management. We have many occasions where we learned that what management think that is happening is not happening. One of the hotels, and I found it hilarious because I worked there for 5 years, the management thought that everything was posted in the POS, and from there, invoice was sent directly to the PMS and gave to the client. In reality, what happened is that they posted in the POS, they canceled it in the PMS to repost it in the PMS to then send out an invoice to the client, and then most of the time, they made a mistake and they had to do it again. So you don't want to know how many hours it took to make an invoice. But this is something happening in every hotel group. Every hotel has this going on. But if you do not know, or if you do not want to know, your hotel will not continue to be functional and having smooth operations, as I said before, and maybe go down because of post-COVID. If you do not prepare now for a digital area, you will not get through the journey. And that's what I want to say today. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Nils. That was really interesting.
Thank you.
Do someone has a question concerning this topic right now? No?
No.
Then I would say thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I hope you will enjoy the conference today.
I will. Thank you.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Bye.